So I've been asked to do a little demonstration of how to build a fairly rapid pond, as in like a pond in an hour or two. It's easily done. Wildlife ponds don't have to be expensive or, you know, massive. They can be small little things, and I'm going to use another one of these things. This is I did one with this the other day. This is about a meter long, well, under a meter. About half that wide and not too deep, which is perfect for wildlife. It's just an underbed storage unit that people put their shoes and crap under their beds with. So I'm going to use this for my next pond. So I'll put that over here. I've been cleaning out my ornamental garden just up behind me, my nice garden with my nice flowers, and plenty of rocks I have. So I'm going to use rocks to build up around the outside to allow access, because this is going to be a raised pond. Now you could sink that with the ground. I can't do that here because this is where my septic tank outflow comes from, so I can't dig into the ground. I'll be digging up pipes. So I'm going to build some raised ponds around it. I'm going to use rocks around the edges. You don't have to use rocks. You can use wood, old bits of wood you use for the fire, anything that will build it up around the edge. What I would advise you to get is moss, either moss or weeds. And this is grass again. I'm after pulling out of the posh garden, so to speak, but I don't want to kill the weeds. A lot of weeds and grasses are really good for wildlife, so we're going to reuse them here for this pond as we put it together. And I'm just going to go through it quickly with you now. So I'll pause this and start again when we're building. So first thing I'm going to do is check to see that it's level with a spirit level. You can also just put a tiny bit of water in the bottom if you haven't got a spirit level, and just make sure that it's not all down one end or up another end. If it is, shove something solid that won't rot away over time underneath it, like rocks, slates if you have them. They work great. Okay, so that's nice and level. So now we're basically just going to start building up the edges. Now again, I have rocks. I have so many rocks from digging another pond that I'm going to use these up. And these are just the basis of my rockery around it. Again, you can build up, you can do the same thing with wood, logs, old bits of, if you're digging up a garden that had slates down on it, you can use them. It's just something solid that newts, frogs, bugs can use to crawl up into a pond. And it's basically just the bigger ones on the bottom, right around the edge. So this is the first stage. You see there? Just right around the edge. So as you can see, we've got the base of the edge popped around there. So that's level. It's supported by those bricks. It's not rocks. It's not going to go anywhere. Again, you can use other materials. I'm just using these because I like them. I don't want to waste them. But wood will do. Anything like that. Next phase now is we're going to pack it with moss. And then we're going to put the lighter stones, or the lighter materials, holding materials we call them. So again, if you're using wood, if you're using logs, you'll use them with moss. If you don't have access to moss, you can go to your garden centre and get rolls of pre-rolled grass, natural grass. And you can either, so the grass will come in a roll, you unroll it, chop it into bits like this, and this is what I'm doing here. I'm just draping it over the edge, and then I'm going to have it just at the edge, and I'm going to place a holding stone in here. And again, that's going to be a living part of the pond. It's not going to rot away. It's going to be part of the pond. It will keep growing. It will solidify it. Any big gaps like that, you can either stuff them full of soil, or you can put other rocks in. Again, moss or grass or weeds, like so. Stuff them in there, put in some rocks. What you want to do is cover the expose plastic area as much as possible, completely, if you can, because when plastic gets exposed to the elements, like especially UV, it tends to deteriorate. There's a baby robin over there. Hello, baby robin. You find your way in the world? Look at the size of the little thing. But yeah, so I hope you get the idea of it. Now I'm going to continue on with this and keep packing it in, and we'll come back to it in a second and give you a look at it. So again, I'm after packing out the edges here with the moss. Again, if you haven't got the moss, use the pre-rolled grass you can get at a garden centre. Go down to your neighbour's allotment or garden and ask them, can you collect some weeds? There's no such thing as bad plants really around the ponds. They all look nice. So there's some grass I pulled up. Now this is the time where you can get creative and really put your own stamp on it and see what you want to come out of it, so you can really kind of get your creative juices flowing. I'm going for a kind of a Hobbit theme here, something that looks like it's been here forever, and it's it's a little magical kind of a pool. So we'll continue on with the outside, and then we're going to talk about what we put on the inside. So I'm pretty happy with the outside. There's a little bit more I want to get done, but yeah, overall I'm pretty happy with the outside. So now we're going to fill in the center. Now we have enough access here for creatures to get up and in, but we need something in the center. Another important thing is, if you are using rocks and not wood, but even if you're using heavier bits of wood, make sure that they're not wobbly on the sides. Make sure they're fairly secure, because you will get larger birds and creatures coming in to drink out of the place. So don't be afraid to ram them rocks in, get them good and secure. Use some soil or some mud from the plants you're using, really ram them in there so they don't fall in and crack the bottom of the pond, especially during winter, because the plastic will get cold, so you don't want the rocks falling in. So on the inside, we're going to start piling some rocks up around the edges. And again, even with the sides that we have with the moss, it can be quite difficult for, you know, a small newt or a frog to get in and out. So we're just going to basically build a natural looking set of ladders on each corner if you have the materials. You'll have to use rocks or something heavy and similar to rocks for this. You can't really use wood because obviously it will just float, but that's the idea for that. Now I'm also going to plant these areas up with some of the weeds I talked about earlier on. So I'm going to see if I can get some grass up. So we have our grass, good root grass. Great thing about it is you don't have to be too kind to it. It will just sit in nicely. And I'm packing it in with the mud. Now you have easy access for any creature, be it dragonfly larva who wants to come out and molt and turn into a dragonfly, or if it's a tadpole who's just changing, easy access in and out. And the next phase now is to fill it up with water. Now here she is with some water in. I'm just going to pack out some of these stones here to make it more attractive for creatures coming in there. But you can see it's really taking shape now. I'll get out of the light. Now doesn't that look like it's been there for 100 years? And that's the idea. All these plants are going to grow in. It would be the same if you use the grass from the garden centre. It would be the same if you use a series of potted plants, which you could easily do. If you want to do something very fancy, you could use small potted stuff like nasturtium. Is amazing. Will give you a lot of cover. It might take a while for it to grow in, but it will. The result will be the same. I'd recommend you using the grass, the rolled grass. If you don't like the look of the grass, you can turn the grass on its side, just leaving the exposed roots. The grass will rot away, but the roots will be there, and you can plant whatever you want on those roots. Again, if you haven't got access to moss, you can buy sphagnum moss in. If you haven't got it growing all over your garden, you can buy it in plastic bags. Just make sure it's from a renewable source from a garden centre. But you can buy it in plastic bags, and some pet shops even sell it for pets. So yeah, So there you go. I hope that's helpful. I hope you kind of get the gist of it. I have my two little hobbit ponds that look like they've been here forever now. This one I done a couple of days ago. But yeah, I think they look really nice. And they didn't cost me a penny. All upcycled stuff. Very easy to do in your back garden. A plastic tub, a few bits of materials, and a little bit of creativity. And then just watch the animals arrive. So just one last thing to add to the build. This is another type of pond I did. This is like flush with some awful, it was just an awful gap we had between the tarmac and some mulch. So I just had a spare strip of liner and sunk that in, which, you know, you can sink liner in if you have the space, but it's the same process really. It's about building up plants around the edge and rocks and structure. But also we filled the last pond, the smaller one. What you need to do, the last thing you need to do, is to add some life. And I don't know if you can see, if you just look at that white rock, you'll see some little tiny pinhead creatures darting about, and that's Daphne. So they were collected with a net like this. You'll get it in a pet shop, one of them. So go down to your local ornamental pond, your local wildlife pond, do 2 swoops of the water with your net, put it in a jar, bring it home, and after a couple of days of letting your pond settle, just tip the jar in, and the microorganisms that are living in that pond, the established pond, will kickstart your pond, stop it turning pea green, which will happen without them, and really give it a good starter in life. Also, don't forget, if you can get them and get access to them, is some native oxygenating plants, subaquatic plants that will live underwater and produce oxygen. But the most important thing is to get those microorganisms going in the water, because without them you have no real foundation for your pond, and it will limit the amount of life you'll get in. You'll still get wildlife using it, but you will severely limit the amount if you don't give it a good start in life. I really hope that helped. Get building.